It is the Rocky Top Roundtable on this college football playoff first round week. Tennessee at Ohio State coming up on Saturday. And guys, when we started covering this team, because each year's its own entity, I think everybody just said, hey, the expectation should be the college football playoff with what Tennessee had coming back. And here we are. They've made it. They've done it. Now they get to go on the road and try to win one in Columbus.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, this is what you play for. This is what you work out for all year long. I mean, it's an interesting matchup. We got the weather variable that everybody's going to talk about, Rob. What does that mean? What does that not mean? And then you've got an Ohio State team that is a little bit hard to get a handle on because of the last impression you have of them is that Michigan game. But that's probably not really who they are, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a really interesting narrative, and I'm sure if you're, inside that bubble, it's probably all you're talking about. I don't mean just the team. I mean the media, fans, everything, because of the way it ended. I don't know if it hurts them or if it helps them. I mean, does it galvanize them the way that season ended? Everybody when their coach fired, despite the fact he's won 95% of his games, or is there so much pressure? Is it one of those situations where if a couple bad things happen early, is it just build on itself? Did the Herb Street's Boo Birds start coming in from the stands? There's a ton of pressure on Ohio State in this game, and I don't know either. The way the season ended could help, it could hurt. I don't know. I mean, but they're in a crucible.
Let's go off the thought process that it galvanizes them, that they're motivated. It's why Tennessee's got to get off to a quick start in this one, right, Eric?
Well, yeah. I mean, the start at Georgia was really, really good for Tennessee. You just got to sustain that. You've got to finish that. And, of course, you can't go and get shut out in a half a play. But the start that you had at on the road, hostile environments, I know Ohio State's not a rival, but this is a huge college football playoff game. You need to let that parallel what you did down there in Georgia. You need to run the football. It's going to be so cold. And, again, we talked about the weather and all that. And somebody's going to have to make some plays. Will Howard, Nico, some of these receivers. But Tennessee's going to have to depend on that run, as it has all season long on the offensive end. Dylan Sampson should be fresh. Again, it's going to be freezing. Just let him tote that rock and let yourself get off to a good start, play off that play-action pass, and hopefully get a lead in this football game early on.
Yeah, everybody talks about the weather, and don't get me wrong, like it's going to be really, really cold. But guess what? Ohio State doesn't play games in 20 degrees, Hubs. They play them in 40 and maybe in the 30s in November. This is a different animal, adding an extra month into the layer of this thing. So, and let's face it, Jeremiah Smith, some of those players for Ohio State they've recruited from the state of Florida, it doesn't seem to bother them, so why should it bother Tennessee? And again, it's not like this is, Gainesville or Baton Rouge.
Well, I think it's about how you handle it. I mean, I think it's about, do you allow it to be, oh, it's so cold, or is it, hey, we're in the playoffs, let's go play, and that's the end of it. And that's what it should be. But you never know how each individual team handles it, and you never know. I don't think at the start the weather's going to be the first issue. I think that what happens is if you don't get off to a good start, either team, then the weather becomes a factor. It gets a lot colder if you're down 10-0 or 14-0 than it is if it's a 14-13 game going into the fourth quarter.
I mean, Eric, I bet you know this. If you're a defensive player and you've just given up 2 scores, you needed your offense to stay on the field, at least move the chains for a couple plays. But no, they're 3 and out. Then you're going back out. Then it feels cold.
Yeah,
that's then the elements start piling up. But no, if you're having sacks, making big plays, jumping up, high-fiving your teammates, you don't feel it at all.
I think overall these are 2 pretty similar teams. And you asked the question, was that a true gauge the last time we saw Ohio State because they looked so bad against Michigan? I don't think so. I'm not saying Ohio State's the best team in the country, but I think the more real version of Ohio State was not what we saw against Michigan. I think it's a team that tries to run the football. It's not as good as Tennessee, obviously. Got 2 really good running backs, but it's 2 defenses that really get after it. 2 defenses that are good on third down, 2 defenses that are fantastic in the red zone. Tennessee's got the best third down defense in the college football playoff. And 2 teams that have some weapons on the outside. Ohio State has seen more success in that regard this year than Tennessee has. But I think it's 2 teams that are similar. 2 teams are going to try to do a lot of the same things, but obviously one team's got to do it better than the other, and you hope that's Tennessee.
Which always brings in, Austin, the question that you have when you have 3 weeks off. Who's got a wrinkle? Who's got something different? And how quickly can you adjust on the fly to somebody doing something different? I think that's a key part of this game, particularly early.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that for Tennessee, the ability to if you could potentially go tempo in the cold weather, how much has Ohio State seen that?
Right.
I don't know, is that part of the wrinkle this year for this game? Because this team's not went tempo a ton. But can they do it in this game to potentially kind of throw Ohio State off? I mean, can Tennessee do it from a just number of bodies they have? I mean, wide receivers seem like they've had a few go to the portal. What is Squirrel White at? Or does Tennessee play a lot more 12 personnel, which is what we've seen them do all year long? Nico's got to play well, though.
Yeah, and again, I think you do have some ring. I mean, what does Chip Kelly have offensively for Tim Banks' defense that maybe they haven't seen? What's a wrinkle there? What does Tennessee and Josh Heupel have for Jim Knowles, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, that's a little bit different there? I'm not saying that suddenly you're running 12 trick plays, but you got 3 weeks to do something a little different. What's your red zone stuff look like, Rob? Because Ohio State's great in the red zone. What are your wrinkles when you've had a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to get yourself ready for this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting. I think the red zone stuff you're talking about is interesting, and this works both ways. But I think, for Josh Heupel being an offensive guy, the 3 weeks you're talking about, it's the first time, in a long time that you've been able to kind of, I think, self-scout more than just get ready for the next Saturday. So what the stuff you're talking about, what have we not been doing well? What do we need to sharpen up on? I mean, those 3 weeks can be big for a guy like Heupel, who I think we all think can scheme some stuff up. And I'd be stunned. And also on that topic of 3 weeks, I think Tennessee's quarterback can get a lot better in 3 weeks. Just his age, when we're talking about not getting ready for a game this next week, getting the film room, really, look at this, look at that with your coaches. I think, I'm not saying he will, I'm not saying he's going to be, a different guy all of a sudden, but a young guy like Nico can make a leap, right? Or a leap may be too strong. He could take a step in 3 weeks after the experience he just got.
Yeah, I'm not trying to act like this 3-week period's been like fall camp, because it hasn't. I mean, they weren't on the practice field every single day, especially early on. But they did practice a couple of times without knowing who the opponent was going to be. What do those practices consist of? Well, fundamentals, tempo. Going back to that, Tennessee's not been an extremely high usage tempo team this year, but could it be in this playoffs to add that extra wrinkle? You were practicing tempo that week. Nico focused on the fundamentals. The offensive tackles focused on the fundamentals. And so it was kind of camp-like in that sense, not 2 days or anything. And I think that's good this time of the year, because you're heading into late December, and it's so much, let's get ready for the next opponent, and this day is this day, and you have film this day and all that, where you can kind of dial it back a little bit and then start throwing in the Ohio State game plan, which you know who that opponent's going to be, and then you kind of go from there. So I think getting back to the fundamentals, tempo, stuff like that, it should be really good for this Tennessee team.
Tennessee's ability to run the football can certainly help Nico out, and Tennessee's ability to stop the run can help the offense out defensively. I think those are the two things that I watch in this game. Can Ohio State slow down Dylan Sampson, and can Tennessee slow down that two-headed monster of Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins?
Well, we talk about the open date and the weeks off, and what does that mean for Tennessee? What does that mean for Ohio State's offensive front that's been reshuffled here?
Trying to get healthy, right?
I don't know how healthy they're going to be, but how much do you have 3 weeks of the same 5 guys working beside each other, which you didn't have the last 3 weeks of the regular season? So how different are they on the offensive front with the time that they've had? And to your point, Austin, it's always a line of scrimmage game. I think this is absolutely the line of scrimmage game. Who can avoid third and long offensively will dictate a lot about what these two offenses can do against these two defenses.
I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, there's nothing flashy about it. I think, if you're Tennessee, it boils down to you want to put the game on Will Howard's shoulders. And, if you can get it into the fourth quarter as a one-score game, frankly, I mean, it might sound crazy, but I like the redshirt freshman quarterback's chances better of making a play than I do Ohio State starter.
Yeah, just a much higher ceiling. And Nico's grown up over the course of the season, made some of those throws against Alabama. There was a discussion about this on the board earlier this week, some of those clutch moments for Nico this year. I mean, I think that second offensive series against Vanderbilt, down 14-0, Dylan Sampson just fumbled, let the opening kickoff drive back, a couple of big third down throws, one of those being a touchdown. He's grown up. And so, yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I'll take my chances with Nico more so than Will Howard in a game like this when somebody's got to make a play. If all things are even, you're running the football, playing good defense.
Give me the one player, not named the quarterback, that has to have a big game in this one to win.
I'm going to go. Omar Norman-Lauder at defensive tackle because of where Ohio State is at the center position. I think Will Howard, you want to get in his face. I think you got to control that run game. So give me an interior defensive lineman, whether that's Eason, Norman Lott, or Mari Thomas. Give me an inside defensive lineman as a key for this game for Tennessee.
Well, I mean, if Hubbard's not going to take him, I mean, I'll just set it on the tee. I'll take Dylan Sampson.
Sure.
I mean, or ground game in general, offensive line, however you want to say it. I mean, if Tennessee can lean on him, if Tennessee can control the chains, and I'm not saying score 35 points, if they can move the sticks, stay in control, stay on, field position, win that kind of battle, and Dillon can average, around 5 yards a carry, 4 or 5 yards a carry, huge.
Give me the tight end group for Tennessee. We know how important that tight end position is for this offense, but I think there's going to be some 12 personnel. Obviously, I think Miles Kitselman's a big part of the offense. Holton Stays as well. Whether it's that guy, Stays, Kitselman, Davis, whoever, give me a tight end group. Tennessee on 3rd and short, going to have the advantage against Ohio State. Ohio State, one of the poorest rush defenses on 3rd and short in the country, and so the tight end's obviously a big factor in there blocking up front.
What do you got?
Give me Jermod McCoy. He is the coolest guy on this team. He just never gets rattled. I think that he plays well. And let's face it, the strength of the Ohio State offense is that group of receivers. They're going to take shots at Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and some of those players. I think Jermod McCoy's got to play well. He's played well every step of the way. Even when he's gotten beat, he's been in fantastic position.
Yep. Give
me Jermod McCoy to have a big game in this one. And let's face it, no matter who wins this game, whatever the temperature is, 15 years from now, it's going to be 15 degrees colder when you're telling that story if you're on the winning side. It is a cold one, but a fun one. Tennessee and Ohio State coming up Saturday night in the college football playoff, live from Columbus, Ohio.